Hey folks, welcome to my channel. I thought I would go through how I have my 2019 Hobie Pro Angler 14 set up for the new season. I'm going to do it a little bit different than I have in the past. I'm not going to go through the install of each individual component. I've covered the vast majority of those components and the install on my previous videos, but I thought I would give you a walkthrough of everything that I've done to this one to get it ready for 2019 and just give you an overview of each component. For those of you that aren't aware, the only real change for the 2019 Hobie Pro Angler is the introduction of the new Hobie Guardian transducer mount. The Guardian transducer mount is designed with the newer, larger transducers in mind, with the side imaging which have to protrude below the hull. The one issue with that is you run into the risk of scraping the transducer, hooking it on something, possibly damaging it. With the new Guardian transducer mount, you can raise and lower the transducer. If you're coming into shore, you can pull it up, tucks it up into the hull, therefore there's no chance of scraping it. Or if you're in shallow waters or an area with a lot of obstacles, you can pull it up in those incidences as well. It's pretty easy to use. There's a cord attached that you can just pull, drop it down, and when you come in close to shore or obstructions, just pull, lock it into the cleat, and it's up under the hull. And of course, going back with the Yak-Power System for my power management, again installed in the bucket with USB port to keep my phone charged and charge up my GoPro sessions or whatever else while I'm on the water. This is the other reason why I install it in the bucket. This is the system actually out of my 2018 Hobie Pro Angler. It was sold without all the accessories, so I'll just simply unplug everything and switch it over to this Kayak. As soon as the new 8-circuit Yak-Power System comes out, I'll probably be installing it in here, but for now I've got this one installed. The way I like to wire things up, power that up first. Number 1 powers up the Lowrance unit and the Point-1. Number 2 powers up the USB port. D is for the cockpit lighting, or up near the bow. S is for the power port at the back for the stern, which powers my BerleyPro orb for my 360 safety light, and that also doubles as a power port for a backup for the power pole. And the M is going to power the USB port in the cockpit. That's a backup power supply for my Hero Shot GoPro. This year I've done a better job of organizing my wiring. I've installed the Yak-Power controller up front with the NEMA 2000 backbone on the mast post. I just used a cheap cutting board from the dollar store that I've cut to size, and then with that it's being held onto the mast post utilizing a Yak Attack roto grip on the back. My main power supply this year is coming from FPV Power and the BerleyPro mount has two 17.5 amp hour batteries mounted back here in the hatch. FPV Power makes a cable that you can wire the two batteries in parallel, so that'll supply me with 35 amp hours of power, which I'm going to need this year with running a 12-inch screen. Simply utilizes their Y cable for parallel. Goes into one of their pigtails that I have wired in, and that runs all the way up to the front to the Yak-Power controller. Drops in there. Stows away. Inside the Pelican case is a Power lithium battery, which simply plugs into a port right here, and that goes up to power the Yak-Power system. This is actually going to be my backup power supply this year. I've removed the Hobie through-hole three-way wiring kit from the right side here and installed the 3BR Powersports USB port. I simply took a piece of plastic and cut it to the size of the through-hole kit and drilled the hole to fit the USB port through and installed it that way. That way in the future, if I need to, I can, if I'm going to get rid of this, just take this out and put the three-way through-hole kit back on. This is going to be an alternative power source for my GoPro camera up front. For this season, I've gone with the Lowrance Elite-12 Ti2 with the Active Image 3-in-1 Transducer. For those that are familiar with the Lowrance Elite TIs, there's not a lot of difference with the Ti2. There are some improvements in imaging and that, and the user interface is a little bit different looking, but other than that, the functionality and everything else still remains the same. I have the unit mounted with the Hobie 1.5-inch ball H-rail accessory mount and the Ram 1.5-inch mount for the Lowrance units. I have the BerleyPro visor on the Lowrance Elite-12 Ti2. This is a great addition to help keep the sun glare off the screen. I find I can dim down the screen a bit more, which really saves on batteries. Again, this year I've installed the Lowrance Point-1 unit. For those of you that don't know what the Point-1 unit does, the Point-1 is basically a compass. Once you've got it installed and calibrated on your unit, your Lowrance unit pointer will always be pointing in the direction that your bow is pointing. Without that, the internal GPS on your unit only knows where you are and which way you are heading. So if you're drifting backwards, your pointer will be pointing in the direction that you're actually drifting. With the Point-1 system, once it's calibrated, it always knows which way your bow is pointing. So for me, I like to utilize it when I put down a number of waypoints, markers on my unit. It gives me a better indication of where those units are or where those markers are in relation to where I am. And if I'm working those waypoints, casting to them, I always know which way to cast because I always know which way my bow is pointing in relation to them. For the cockpit lighting, I've gone with the button lights again from Yak-Power. I just go with the white. I know that some people prefer the red to not mess up your night vision, but I never have them on long enough that it really bothers me. I don't do a lot of night fishing, and the only time I'll really need them is in the morning at first launch, when if I need to change a line or do something, the cockpit lighting will give me ample lighting. Again, for the way I've got them installed, I use B for bow for my cockpit lighting, and it's off. That'll give you some indication. I've got them tucked underneath the mounting boards so that when I'm in the seat, I don't actually see the lights themselves. I just get the ambient light, the glow from the from the deck, so it's not blinding my eyes. Simple. Quick and easy. Turn them on, off. Again, this year for my 360 safety light, I'm going with the BerleyPro Orb. Gives me plenty of light, makes me very visible out on the water. I've had guys comment that they've seen me launch 2 miles down the lake during tournaments with the BerleyPro Orb. The bright safety flag makes you visible to other boaters during the daytime. It's mounted on the Hobie accessory mount, which I mount on my H crate, and power supply goes back down in to a power port, or Yak-Power power port that I've installed at the back here. Simply plug in. For tackle management and storage, I've gone again with the BerleyPro Van Bros on the seat and the BerleyPro jig buckets on the side, where I've replaced the original Hobie map pockets. I've run the other web style storage bags, I guess you could call them, in the past, but I always found I was getting hooks stuck in them, and the way they kind of fold up, I was never sure exactly what I had in them. I had to root through them, and sometimes I'd get my fingers stuck on a hook that somehow managed to be in there. I like the open style of the BerleyPros. I can always see what's in them. The BerleyPro jig buckets have a number of cutouts that you can just hook your jigs or your hooks or lures as you're changing them out until you get them put away. You can keep your scents or whatever you use, a number of soft plastic bags, you name it, they'll fit in there. Go back again, I have the Hobie H crate to store all my tackle. Got a number of extra rod holders added to it. Does come with 4 rod holders with bungees if you want to secure them down. So for anchoring again this year, I'm going with Anchor Wizard. I have it mounted on the H rail with a set of T-track. It's mounted utilizing these Yak Attack gear track bar clamps. There's the part number. I don't think they make these any longer. I haven't been able to find anybody with them, and the ones that I did find, I bought. So if you can find them out there, or if you get a Yak Attack to go back to make them again, they're great for mounting the Anchor Wizard on the Hobie H rail. This is the newer style, low profile Anchor Wizard. I have the drop chute mounted up front using a set of gear track again. I've drilled through, and I utilize a piece of aluminum that I've drilled and tapped to put underneath the underside. I know some guys use a few screws up here and just drill right into the plastic, but I like to add a little bit of reinforcement on the underside. I'm pulling up an 8 pound anchor. I don't want to be pulling screws out of plastic. And of course, my go-to shallow water anchor is always going to be the Powerpole micro anchor, mounted on the Hobie Powerpole micro anchor mount. Again, Mighty Mouse covered. I use the battery pack 99.9% of the time rather than hard wire. And of course I have the anchor trolley installed. I'll use the anchor trolley for a couple different things. I have the Hobie drift stock, which I'll use depending if I want to control my boat position during a drift. And if I want to change the position of my anchor with my anchor wizard, some guys have asked me how do I utilize the anchor trolley. I simply have a carabiner installed on the loop, just loop the line through, hook my anchor on it, and this way I can move the anchor fore and aft and to whatever position I want to position my boat. When I want to bring my anchor back up, I simply move the anchor trolley up closer to the anchor wizard and bring it up.